so today I'm going to be talking about how I made an extra $500 in February 2020. And so this whole money, financial, working online journey is relatively new to me, at least going solo and going freelance on my own. In the past, I've worked alongside with my brother, Mike Vestil, and helped him at the very beginning stages of him building his business, and then kind of stepped away. And now it's kind of me figuring things out on my own. It's been a long time coming. Like I said in many videos before, I want to be 100% transparent with you guys about everything that's going on in my life. So I'm going to try to do a monthly review of like my income and sharing with you guys my process about like life, I guess, and how I'm making money and how I'm making this lifestyle work. So essentially, I want to share with you guys how I made an extra $500 in February 2020 working online. And this is just with one client, so I'm just going to take you guys through the entire process of what I did to kind of get to this point. So I'm working with a client running lead campaigns and Facebook ads, and essentially the way I structured it is I get a percentage of the results I actually get. Especially starting off, I think it's really important to build trust with your clients, and so one way to do that is only charge them if you give them the results that they want. As a newbie going into the digital marketing space, I know that could sound really intimidating. It was really intimidating to me because I was like, oh my god, what if I can't actually perform, you know? I think it's a really good place to start, and once you get that one person who thinks you're amazing and believes in you, that testimonial is so freaking powerful. And once you get to that point, then it's kind of like you're free to fly. So in February 2020, I only got money from one client, one project. I'm still transitioning into kind of figuring out my workflow and how things are going to work, essentially with everything that I'm doing digital marketing online. And so I received a payment for $541.80. It might not sound like a lot, but it's a stepping stone, at least for me, to getting to that consistent monthly income. Last month in January 2020, I also had a $500 month, and then this month I also had a $500 month. That consistency is there, and I'm getting to that point where I'm talking to a few more clients, but the way I'm getting paid is either delayed or like half up front, half at the end. And so I'm just going to talk about where this $500 came from in 2020. So I'm actually doing all this work in England, so I'm getting paid in pounds. So I'm going to talk in pounds, but it doesn't relate to the dollars because I don't even know how much that is in pounds, but whatever. So essentially, the way I did it was I had a £500 setup fee, half up front and then half after the project. I was actually helping a girl market her retreat in London. It was a day retreat, just one day. There were like about 50 spots open, and just essentially market that retreat until it sold out. So £250 of that setup fee was paid in January, and that was half of my income in January, and £250 was paid in February. That's where half of this money came from this time around. And so the rest of the money was actually from the results that I actually provided. I went through a series of things. To ensure a marketing campaign is good, there's a lot of factors that go into it. It's the ad copy, the ad graphic, the audience insights, the sales funnel that occurs afterwards once they opt in, and then the sales funnel after they opt in and how they can convert them to a client. Especially as someone who's rebuilding her own marketing agency, I guess you could say, that's also a learning process for me on how I'm able to connect and intertwine that and integrate that with everything. I use this client to actually test out what was working and what wasn't, and figuring out my game plan of how I could then advertise my own services from here on out. The beauty of actually taking on a client and making sure that they have very low expectations, because you're starting off, and once you get to that point and then you overperform and give them a lot of value and do all these things you didn't even mention before, but along the way you're figuring it out and learning, and then once they see the results they're like, holy shit, that's amazing that you did all this for that much money. Like, I think the most important thing is just getting your toes wet in the water. I think a lot of times I was really scared, but I think when it comes down to it, when you're actually working with a client, you're like, okay, I have no other option but to make this work out. And so because you have that kind of mindset now that you're working with a person and their business, then you're actually going to the ends of the earth to learn and implement. And the implementation part is probably the most important important thing. Like, we could watch YouTube videos and tutorials all freaking day, but if we don't actually implement it, then we're not learning the skill until we actually do it. So what ended up happening was I have experience working with Facebook campaigns in the past for my e-commerce website when I was like a sophomore in college. So getting back into that and making sure the ad copy was all right, the video copy was all right, the call to actions were all right, and testing out different ways I could do that. And then now creating a opt-in landing page and sales funnel through ClickFunnels, and then essentially writing the ad copy for that, getting a now prospective client to give you their email. But yes, you could get all these emails really easily, and if you just want to offer lead magnets, like, people pay tons of money for just emails. But especially for someone starting off, the best way to actually capture those leads isn't by actually getting them to give you their email, is by chasing them via email or via phone number. So what ended up happening was, once I realized that, I created a 3 email funnel that would send out over the span of a week to kind of warm people up into what was going on. So in this case, it was a retreat. So the first email was just kind of an overview of what the retreat was, where it is, what's included, who's the teachers, what to expect essentially from this day retreat. And that was the first email that sent out as soon as they put in their email. The second thing was a long form storytelling email that essentially kind of says why this person should go in, without explicitly saying like, come to my retreat. It has to be really enticing. It's more storytelling, so they don't even realize they're reading an ad until the end. But it's more so like, one day I couldn't get out of bed and I barely wanted to show up for work, blah 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 blah. It's like long form storytelling. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but essentially you'll want to create these story formats, which I'm sure I'll say for another video of how to create that storyline on implicitly selling now the event that you are offering. So after that 3 series funnel, you could, since I was able to capture all these emails, I knew which sales came from me and which sales came from my clients. What ended up happening was, before we even started, I said I was charging 20% of whatever sales came through me. I made her £1,200 in sales, I believe, and then I got 20% of that. So that's where the other half of my income this month came from, was charging 20% of the results I actually created. We get to a point where it isn't like a limited thing, because I think at the time that I was coming in, there were like 25 spots left. Yeah, so essentially that's the series of what I went through to get that $500 month this month from just one client. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's over 1 month's rent of me living in Chiang Mai, so it makes ends means, at least for now. So yeah, that's kind of the structure I went through. Is like 250 of it came from the second half of my setup fee, and then the rest of it came from 20% of the results that I actually produced. And so what I was doing was a series of Facebook ads, lead magnets, and then a sales email funnel. That's kind of the 3 things I did this month to produce that. And obviously in the future, I want to become more transparent about those entire processes. But for now, obviously all my client work is confidential for security reasons. Anyway, that's how I made a $500 month this month in February 2020. And I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and let me know how you guys are pulling in all sorts of income this month. And I'd love to hear more from you guys. And I'm so excited for you being here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.